Is your magic meter running low? Well, we've got a cure for you. Welcome to Disney Coast to Coast.
Hey folks, and welcome to Disney Coast to Coast, the ultimate unofficial Disney fan podcast. I'm Jeff DePauli, and today on the show, my friend Derek returns from the Mad Chatters podcast. Hello, Derek.
Hey, Jeff. Thanks for having me.
Always a pleasure. Do you know, I'm going to start with trivia. Do you know what anniversary we just celebrated at Disneyland Park? You better know.
Oh, I'm gonna take a stab at it. I want to say some sort of anniversary for Big Thunder Mountain Railroad.
That's correct. Wow. September 2nd, this past Monday, Big Thunder Mountain Railroad opened in 1979, which makes it 40 years old, which is crazy, but at the same time, it's like so classic. I can't imagine it not being there. So sometimes I'm like, I can't believe it's not older. But in any case, we're going to have a conversation today about Big Thunder Mountain Railroad. So let's jump into that conversation right now.
It's time to dive into today's Disney dialogue.
Okay, Derek, so I got to start off asking you, where does this attraction rank for you? Like, is this a Disney classic ride that you know, you really love, or is it just one of these ones that exist? How often do you ride it? Of course, you much more often would go on the second Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, which is over at Walt Disney World. But where does it rank for you?
It ranks actually very high, and when I first started going to the parks, that wouldn't be the case, but I've really grown to appreciate it over time. And what I love about it is probably not what most people love about it, like the thrills of it all. That's not really why I ride Big Thunder, but I pretty much make a point to do it every time I'm in the Magic Kingdom.
So what is the reason you ride it then, if it's not the thrills?
Just the scope of it and the classicness of it, and that it's just always dependable. Like, it's always going to put a smile on my face, even if it doesn't make my belly do the things I love that my belly does on things like Rock and Roller Coaster, you know, like the butterflies. It doesn't do that.
Sure.
But it still makes me smile, and it's so long and expansive. So many wonderful things.
It's so funny because I think I avoid that belly feeling. Like, even the things that I do, like Rock and Roller Coaster or Tower of Terror, or those types of rides that a lot of people, you know, they'll feel their stomach sink or whatever. I don't get that feeling. Like, I will the first time just because I'll be so scared. But if I do it more than once, that means it was just fun for me. And, yeah, I don't think I would. I love how people seek out that feeling. And I'm like, nope.
Oh my gosh, no, I love it. I live for those first few seconds of Rock and Roller Coaster.
Yeah,
but
that's so funny.
Anyway, still love Big Thunder, though.
Yeah, so Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, for me, it's interesting because it's an attraction that, honestly, I don't ride often by choice. It's usually somebody I'm with being like, hey, let's go ride Big Thunder Mountain. And I'm like, sure. Like, I'm never against riding it unless it has an ungodly wait. But I would be upset if it were gone, mostly because of advertising, which sounds weird, but there are certain attractions like Dumbo the Flying Elephant and Big Thunder Mountain Railroad that whenever you see B-roll or a commercial advertising a Magic Kingdom style park, those are the attractions that you see, and they almost have to be there for that reason, because Disney has kind of made this promise of, this is an experience you will have, an iconic experience you will have when you enter our parks. So it's weird in that sense for me.
That's a really great point. And I think there are a ton of reasons for that. One is because it's so family friendly. Yeah. Like, if you have a shot of a whole train coming around the corner, you're going to see people of all ages on that train, which makes it seem appealing when you're watching a commercial. But it's also just so picturesque. Like, it's such a pretty mountain with so many good scenes, no matter what angle you're looking at it from. So I totally get why they use it.
Yeah, it's a beautiful mountain, but also on top of that, like, it's in daylight. So when it comes to, you know, if you were to shoot a family on Pirates of the Caribbean, there'd be a whole production setup, you know, there'd have to be additional lighting and stuff like that. But yeah, Big Thunder Mountain, you'll see the characters on it for commercials. Yeah. A lot of sitcoms will shoot scenes on that attraction. So yeah, it's one of those things that I think I would miss it more for that reason. If they were ever like, we're getting rid of it, I'd be like, wait, what? It's in every commercial. So
I know.
It's kind of a weird reason, I guess. But that's what I think of first thing when I think of Big Thunder Mountain Railroad. It's interesting. I do want to say my favorite time to ride Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, and I don't know if this is the case for Magic Kingdom as well, you can let me know. But if you can time it so that you're on that ride during the fireworks, it is an epic, epic, epic experience.
1,000% agree. I was going to bring this up as well because I have been able to ride it during the fireworks. And I mean, what more can you say? Because you see the fireworks every time you come out of a tunnel, every corner you turn around, they're just right there above you the whole trip.
Yeah, there are a couple attractions like that. Over at Walt Disney World, I know the People Mover is a really fun one during fireworks, if you can time that well. Matterhorn at Disneyland is a fun one during fireworks, if you can time that well. So, I don't know, it's always that little bit of extra something. And I also know that with ours now, with Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, you get a pretty unique, although admittedly I've not seen it since it opened, but it used to be great construction views for Star Wars Galaxy's Edge.
Yes, indeed. I got that view.
Yeah, and I should do it now that it's opened. I haven't actually ridden Big Thunder yet since that's happened, so that's kind of cool as well. But in any case, let's start with the original Disneyland Park. As I mentioned, it opened in 1979, and this was the first Big Thunder Mountain Railroad. And the interesting thing about this is 1979. Walt Disney World opened in 1971. And I just kind of always assumed it was a day one attraction for Walt Disney World. Like Disneyland, I can totally imagine without a Big Thunder Mountain Railroad because, with that earlier footage, I mean, a lot of Frontierland was just, riding a pack mule or, a horse-drawn carriage or something, not rides in the sense that we know them today. But Walt Disney World, I was like, really? This place once existed without a Big Thunder Mountain Railroad? That's crazy.
Yeah. And I think I read that the same thing with Disneyland Paris. It opened without a Big Thunder Mountain. And it's especially, I think most people would be surprised, most, casual Disney fans would be surprised to know that Space Mountain opened before Big Thunder Mountain, because Big Thunder Mountain does feel like it's always been there. Yeah,
that's a surprising fact to me. The other thing that's interesting to think about, though, in both cases with both Walt Disney World and even I would say Paris a little bit, is like how right now with Lightning McQueen's Racing Academy, when you're going to that attraction, you very much feel like you're leaving the park.
Yeah.
It feels outside the area of typical park. Think of where Big Thunder Mountain Railroad is located in Walt Disney World. Like it's kind of dead end.
Yes.
Outside of park feeling. I mean, right now I think we're so used to it that it feels like it's part of the park, but like I could totally picture a wall being there or rock work or something right at the end before that and that not existing. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do. You can see it from so many angles. So there are times when you think, oh, that must be right in the center of the park, because you can see it from Liberty Square and all sorts of other places. But yeah, once you get to it, you're like, oh, this is just a dead end. There's nothing past this.
Yeah, the equivalent for folks listening who haven't been to Walt Disney World, and you can correct me if I'm wrong because you've experienced both as well, but to me it kind of feels like going to the Winnie the Pooh ride in Disneyland, whereas like it's beyond Splash Mountain. It's really tucked back in this corner. And I don't know if this is factual or not, but I would assume maybe shorter wait times than Disneyland because of its location. It's a little bit off the beaten path.
I don't know about that. I mean, the entrance is right by the Splash Mountain entrance as well.
Okay.
So it's not like you have to make an extra effort to go back there. I mean, you're going to pass it at some point during your day at Magic Kingdom.
Whereas with Winnie the Pooh, here at Disneyland, you really could not even know it's there. That one's really off the beaten path. And
yeah,
it's interesting just having done this show and experienced a lot of things and researched a lot of stuff, it always amazes me how the location of attraction can make or break it. Like crazy. Mm-hmm. Star Tours here versus Walt Disney World. Same with Winnie the Pooh and something like, extraterrestrial just being in the wrong place. It's interesting to me. Yeah. But in any case, this original attraction was the brainchild of Disney legend Imagineer Tony Baxter. And he actually started developing this in 1972. So 7 years before it opened. And it was being planned for Walt Disney World, but Disneyland's version opened first. Now, I am curious, are you familiar with the space at all that existed before this attraction in Disneyland? Do you remember what was there at all?
I know, Mine Train Through Nature's Wonderland and
Yeah.
the Rainbow Caverns and all that.
Yeah.
Was there more than that?
So yeah, Mine Train Through Nature's Wonderland opened on May 28th of 1960. And this was essentially, having watched a video of it and stuff, I wish I had experienced this because it actually seems like something I would like quite a bit. But to me, it just feels like Jungle Cruise on land. Have you seen video footage of this?
Yeah, I think I have.
Yeah, and it's exactly what it sounds like. It's a train going through like these desert landscapes and such, and there's animatronic animal figures, and it's the Jungle Cruise on land. But there's another train attraction at Disneyland. Walt was obsessed with his trains, and it's just so funny that that was 5 years after the park opened. Yet another train added to the park.
Oh gosh, I never even thought about that because the railroad itself also had frontier-ish scenes in it, did it not?
Yeah, I believe it rode right through it. Frontierland used to be massive. Frontierland is the land that keeps getting smaller and smaller and smaller. Because if you think of Frontierland when Disneyland Park opened, and some of this could have been backstage area originally, but if you think of the areas that kind of used to be Frontierland currently, you have New Orleans Square, used to be a portion of Frontierland. You have Critter Country, that used to be a portion of Frontierland. And now, arguably, parts of Star Wars Galaxy's Edge used to be Frontierland. So Frontierland was a frontier at one point. It was huge when this park first opened. So they had this Mine Train Through Nature's Wonderland. In addition to that, it was kind of one of these attractions where multiple attraction kind of interweaved. I think maybe a good way of thinking about it is the Storybook Land canal boats in Disneyland. You know how you can ride through that, but also during portions of it, you'll see the Casey Jr. train going through it and over it and stuff like that. Well, with the Mine Train Through Nature's Wonderland, you had horse-drawn carriages. You also, I believe, had the donkey rides going through that area. So it was a space used for a lot, but the same animatronic figures and such could be seen. And it's pretty similar. Have you been to Knott's Berry Farm?
Yes, I have.
Okay, cool. So did you do the Calico Mine Train there?
We did. It was interesting.
Oh, you're not a fan?
No, I mean, it was great. I just thought the mechanics of the attraction were kind of strange, where going up a hill, like, I constantly thought, we're not going to make it up this hill.
That's what they want
We're
you to
about to
think.
roll back down backwards.
Yeah, it's a grand scale attraction that's been around for in fact, that opened in November of 1960, so it was just a few months after this whole Mine Train Through Nature's Wonderland. So they opened around the same time, and the Calico Mine Train still exists today. If people don't know, Knott's Berry Farm is about a 10 or 15 minute ride from Disneyland. If you have an extended vacation, I'd say go. They have it's an interesting history. Study the history of Knott's Berry Farm and then go. And if you're a Halloween fan, definitely go to Knott's Scary Farm because it's the greatest Halloween event in Southern California. Tangent there. But in any case, there's a lot of similarity, I would say, between those two. And you mentioned, I think, the caverns there. There's a fun little Easter egg of Rainbow Ridge, which was a portion of the Mine Train attraction where you went into the caverns and it was all colorful and stuff in there. But do you know where the Easter egg is in Disneyland Park?
Ooh, no, I don't.
Okay, so next time you're in Disneyland Park, ride the railroad between New Orleans Square into Mickey's Toontown. And during that portion, you're going to go through a dark tunnel. And when I say a dark tunnel, like it's literally just pitch black. Put on, this is probably a terrible thing to tell people to do, but it's an Easter egg, so, it's obviously there to be seen. Put on the flashlight on your phone and shine it on the black wall as you're riding past, and you're going to see old poster of attractions. And one of them is a Rainbow Ridge poster. Or I'm sorry, I think I'm using the wrong name. The name of the village was Rainbow Ridge. What's the Rainbow Caverns? I'm sorry.
Rainbow Caverns, and the poster for it is so cool because it's just a black poster with Rainbow Caverns, but then the water is like rainbow colored coming down. And there's not old, the new Mickey Mouse shorts, the new style of them. I'm so sorry because I'm not going to remember the name of it, but there's one whole episode, which of course is about 5 minutes long.
Yeah.
And it's Mickey and Minnie riding basically Mine Train through Nature's Wonderland. And as they pass through a tunnel, you see a poster on the side for Rainbow Caverns.
Okay, so I'm pretty sure it's that. Wow, that's funny. So the reference in that short is the reference to an Easter egg in Disneyland.
Maybe, but it's more like outside the tunnel saying like straight ahead, you'll see Rainbow Caverns,
Gotcha.
like coming attractions.
So yeah, so it's a fun little Easter egg that, unless you're shining a light, you're not going to see it. It's pitch black in there. So it's kind of fun. It's one of those things I think was put on purpose, but at the same time, it's like maybe somebody just forgot and they're just like, it's pitch black. Nobody will notice.
Yeah.
But it's a strange location. So I'm pretty sure it was put there on purpose. Of course, we're talking all about this. This was all stuff that was there before Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, but I want to point it out because there are tributes to this in addition to that Easter egg I just mentioned in the original attraction. You see that little western town area kind of toward the end of the attraction, and while you're in the queue, there's a western saloon and a hotel and an office and a mercantile building, and all of this is the village of Rainbow Ridge that used to be part of that original attraction. So, actually, do you know where the name Big Thunder came from? Because that's tied back to the Nature's Wonderland as well.
Oh, I've never heard that.
Yeah, there was a waterfall that they used to call Big Thunder. And that's how it got the name Big Thunder Mountain Railroad. Kind of cool, right?
That's funny because I feel like I know everything about this attraction, but I'd never heard that.
Well, that's why you got to listen to Disney Coast to Coast, the ultimate unofficial Disney fan podcast, to learn these fun little factoids.
I guess so.
But yeah, and once again, the way the Big Thunder Mountain Railroad took over this older attraction, it is interesting. History repeats itself, and it kind of recently happened again in a smaller way, but Big Thunder Ranch, that really was a part of that attraction, in my mind, it was all kind of part of the same thing, has been taken over by Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, and so history is just repeating itself in that sense. And I still miss Big Thunder Ranch. You got to experience it, right?
I did, and what I always picture whenever I try to think of Big Thunder Ranch is one thing I love about the Disneyland Big Thunder Mountain Railroad is that there was a path all the way around it, because to get to the backside, that's how you got to Big Thunder Ranch. And I just remember being so impressed that you could see this grand mountain from every side, which means Disney had no opportunity to mask it with some sort of facade and in the back just be this warehouse thing. They really had to make every inch count.
Yeah, you can still see that. Impressive. The little Galaxy's Edge path still goes back there. But yeah, it is something I haven't thought about that often. But yeah, that's a 360-degree mountain you've got there that you're looking at. So that's pretty cool. Yeah. Now, one of the things about Big Thunder Mountain Railroad is all of the different versions of the attraction have a similar-ish story. But I'm going to read the story real quickly of Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, the original at Disneyland Park. The story goes that gold was first discovered on Big Thunder Mountain in the 1850s and the early years of the American Gold Rush. And Big Thunder Mining Company was founded to dig the treasures out of the mountain's rocky interior, with the town of Big Thunder springing up nearby. However, according to legend, a supernatural force inhabits the mountain, and soon the miners noticed eerie happenings such as ghostly sounds, cave-ins, and equipment suddenly malfunctioning. The trains designed to haul the gold across the wilderness started taking off and racing through the mountain with no one operating the engine. Word soon got out that the area was haunted, and Big Thunder Mountain became another stereotypical ghost town of the Wild West. Years later, once the eyewitness accounts had faded into the local folklore, prospectors resurrected the company and began blowing holes in the mountainside again. They would soon discover, though, that some legends are true. Now, this is such an interesting backstory to me because it's one of those backstories that you can easily not get whatsoever. How do you feel about that? I don't know. Is it a fun little insider knowledge thing, or is it annoying that it's quote-unquote poor storytelling?
I think it all depends on the attraction. In this case, the attraction is totally enjoyable, even if you don't know the backstory. And I think that's why Disney does not go out of their way to say, look, here's what's happening. Before you get on the ride, we have to, there's no pre-show, there's no Dr. Seeker or anybody telling you exactly what you're about to do. Because it's a mine train. Everybody knows what a mine train is. But then when you hear the backstory, I think it does enrich it in the sense that, the train we're on is like a haunted train and it hasn't been running for years and now it's running on its own accord. I think that makes the ride even better in a way once you know that.
Yeah, it's kind of an unintentional plus of the attraction.
Yeah.
And it is interesting. I'd be curious to know, I'd love to have this conversation with Tony Baxter, but I'd be curious to know if at one point, they obviously spent a lot of time working on a backstory. I'm curious if at one point they really tried to make that a very clear story, or if that was just no, this is for us to know, this is for us so that we can work these details in. and if that was always the decision. Because, he also, one of his other big attractions is Indiana Jones' Adventure, Temple of the Forbidden Eye. And that, of course, has this epic story that is very clear and intentionally told. So, I don't know. It's a fascinating way of creating an attraction, is developing this huge backstory and then just being like, but just throw it all away in, some sense. It's interesting.
Yeah, I think it's a great story, to be honest. And I actually think Disney kind of did the opposite, as opposed to building a story and then letting it fade over time. I think when they did the refurb of the one in Walt Disney World in the 2011, 2012, that's when they added more elements in the queue that pointed directly to the storyline. So it's kind of funny in the opposite sense. They've actually tried more to get you to understand the story.
Yeah, and we're going to get to that one in just a second. Before we move on to Walt Disney World, I want to mention that this was one of the first Disney attractions to utilize computer-aided design. So we're talking about the 70s here, and this really helped make a different style of creating it. Of course, computer-aided design is something that is still used today at Walt Disney Imagineering and theme park attractions. So, Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, one of the first to do that. And then March 17th, 2014 is when the attraction reopened after a pretty lengthy refurbishment. Not a new story like Walt Disney World got, but we got a brand new track. And I will say, I'm one of those people, till this day, I still do not ride the Matterhorn all that often because it's painful for me. And Big Thunder Mountain Railroad at Disneyland kind of used to be that way, not to the extreme of Matterhorn. But this new track changed everything. Like, sometimes I forget that they put a new track, and then I'm like, oh yeah, this used to be much less comfortable. So have you done it both ways?
I mean, I know I did it back in 2000. I don't remember it, but I've definitely done it several times after that refurbishment.
Yeah, and it's smooth.
It's so smooth. And I remember reading an interview with Tony Baxter where he was kind of passive-aggressively angry about it because, like we just said, the storyline is that it's a ghost runaway train. And when you think of a ghost train, you don't think of like a smooth, wonderful, comfortable experience. You think of this train that at any moment could go off the rails. And I don't know if I totally believe him, but he insists that was kind of always their plan, to make it a little bit like unsafe feeling. And now that they've smoothed out all the curves, it's like, well, that kind of defeats the purpose of the storyline.
I say yes and no when it comes to this, because I wouldn't doubt that is partially true, but at the same time, people were passing kidney stones because of this attraction. Like, literally.
Yeah,
This is something that was happening. So if that's happening, you need to fix the track. Like, that's no longer an option. Safety first.
Sure. But when I read that, it did make sense. And I'm going to give you an example. When you're climbing
and it tilts? And it leans?
When you're climbing any of the hills and the car in front of you is tilting to the right and you're tilting to the left. And it does give that sense where this is all very haphazard and it's not the smooth train ride. Something's off here, and I love that about it. Yeah,
that is a cool moment. It's a cool and disconcerting moment when you see the vehicle start leaning in opposite directions and stuff. Yeah, it's interesting. It is interesting. I do also want to mention that refurb in 2014 is when we got the new added special effect at the end, which is really great. It used to be, at the end there's an earthquake. It was originally an earthquake. Now it's more of an explosion story, and you used to just see like the rumbling rocks and such when they were working. Now there's map projection with lighted fuses and a whole explosion effect that is, I think, still just unique to Disneyland Park. And it's a pretty cool effect. I'm a big fan of it, and it was a really cool plus. It was nice to see that, because I honestly can't remember now if they had announced that was going to happen, but it could have easily just been one of those things where like, yeah, we're putting in a new track, and then it opens, you're like, oh, and this awesome finale? Very cool, nice surprise.
Yeah, I don't remember if they announced it beforehand either, but Jeremy and I, my co-host and I, went just a few weeks after that opened, and I remember we were just blown, no pun intended, we were blown away by just how much it enhanced just the simple ride, like just that one little finale. And of course, every single time the one in Walt Disney World goes down for any length of time, the rumor is, oh, it's getting the new finale. I know it, which it has not yet. But
the rumor is that it will get it for the 50th. That's the rumor, for the 50th anniversary of Walt Disney.
The rumor is Walt Disney World's about to be a completely different park from top to bottom by the time the 50th rolls around.
Yeah, exactly. So before we move on from the original Disneyland attraction, I do want to mention one other fun little Easter egg that I think is awesome, because at the attraction's entrance, there's like a notice hanging, and it's signed by Willard P. Bounds, U.S. Marshal. And this is a tribute to Lillian Dizney, her father, so that's Walt's wife's father, who was a blacksmith and U.S. Marshal in Idaho. So a little tribute to Walt's wife's, so I guess Walt's father-in-law. That's a fun little detail nobody notices, and I just love the fact that it's there. That's fantastic. But in any case, that's anything else you want to say about the original Disneyland Big Thunder Mountain Railroad?
No, it's pretty, and I'm glad it exists.
Great. So let's move on to Magic Kingdom, where the attraction opened on November 15th of 1980. And this one, once again, it's in Frontierland. And as you mentioned, this one has had it's had more than one story, because once they enhanced the queue and everything, they added a new story. But let me read the original story here for you. The story goes, during the height of the gold rush, men in town of Tumbleweed began looking for gold in the nearby mountain, Big Thunder, which was also an Indian burial ground. Though the mountain thundered when anyone inspected it, these men took ore trains deep down in the caverns. They removed the gold and celebrated with poker games and parlor girls. Acts of God struck back. Mysterious spirits took control of the trains and spun them out of control. A flash flood inundated the town, and an earthquake hit. Everything was lost. So pretty similar story this time now. We got the flash flood in addition to an earthquake. But that was the original story for it. And then in 2012, they added that interactive queue and a new story. And the story with this one introduces a character named Barnabas T. Bullion, and he's the founder and the president of Big Thunder Mining Company. The longtime mining magnate comes from a powerful East Coast family and considers gold to be his very birthright by virtue of his oddly appropriate name. In fact, he considers the ultimate gold strike to be his destiny. And that is why he is having so much trouble with Big Thunder Mountain. According to superstitious locals, Big Thunder Mountain is very protective of the gold it holds within, and the unfortunate soul who attempts to mine its riches is destined to fail. And so far, that prophecy is coming to pass. The mine has been plagued by mysterious forces and natural disasters ever since, and yet the Big Thunder Mining Company is still in operation. In fact, Bullion is discovering new veins of gold and digging new shafts every day, offering a closer look at the Big Thunder Mountain mining operation than ever before. But a word to the wise for anyone attempting to visit the mountain: watch out for runaway trains. So that's pretty much a brand new story. Yeah. And correct me if I'm wrong, Barnabas T. Bullion has a likeness to Imagineer Tony Baxter, right?
I mean, spitting image, yeah.
Yeah, so there's a picture of him hanging in the queue now. And it's Tony Baxter, which is cool. Like, what a nice tribute. I'm wondering who did that, because, let's see, 2012, he would have been gone from the company, I think, at that point, right? When did he retire?
Really?
I think so. I mean, that's only 7 years ago. I feel like he's been retired for quite some time now. Okay. Maybe it was one of the last things he worked on, but I also doubt he'd be like, let's hang a picture of myself in here. Like,
that's fair. Yeah, that's fair. I have a question about the flash flood thing, because you said in Disneyland it's an earthquake, right?
Yeah.
And then so that scene, I don't know if you can picture it, but at the end of the ride in Magic Kingdom, there are like those geysers spouting and all the water pouring over. Is that only in Magic Kingdom because of the flash flood story?
We do not have the geysers. That is for certain. We have the water splash by the dinosaur bones, which, but I think that's more of like the train hitting the water is creating a splash. But yeah, as far as those geysers are concerned, we do not have those. And the references for both are a bit different. I'll get into that a little bit later, but they were based on different areas of the U.S. for a specific reason, which is interesting. But yeah, I don't know if that has to do with the flood or not, but I know it's not part of Disneyland's attraction. But yeah, quite a different story. What do you think of the interactive queue? Walt Disney World does these much better than Disneyland. And do you think it adds to the experience for Big Thunder Mountain, or is it kind of a lame interactive queue?
It's not lame, but it also does add to it, because before it was just switchbacks in the very stuffy indoor area, and now you have little things to do, little things to look at, and it does pass the time, and I don't think they're hokey. So yeah, I approve.
Okay. Now, we had discussed how originally Tony Baxter was originating this idea for Walt Disney World, and that's because there was a big project at Walt Disney World called Thunder Mesa, and it was to include an attraction called the Western River Expedition. You've heard this story before, right?
Oh man, Disney, especially Walt Disney World fans, this is one of those things that they always bemoan, like, oh, if we could have just gotten Western River Expedition.
Let's start a rumor. I hear that Walt Disney World might be bringing it for the 50th anniversary.
Well, I think at this point in history, they'd have to tone down the racism a lot.
Yeah.
Based on what they originally had planned for it. But it did sound very, very epic.
Yeah.
And I wish we could have seen it in some form.
Once again, I think it was one of those attractions where several different attractions kind of interweaved into one, which I always think is really fun to see the same attraction from different points of view. Even like something as stupid and silly as the railroad, like at Disneyland, or the People Mover at Walt Disney World, when you ride the railroad at Disneyland, you'll like ride through Splash Mountain and you'll see the finale scene, and just little moments like that I think are the coolest.
Yeah, it almost feels like Thunder Mesa was going to be some sort of Frontierland pavilion.
Yeah.
You know, with the Western River Expedition, I think there was going to be like a mule train or something. And then at one point there was a rumor that there would be some sort of mine train coaster, and it was all going to be part of one area in Frontierland.
Yeah, so it would have been pretty huge, pretty epic. Never came to happen. But without the concept of that, at least, Big Thunder Mountain Railroad probably wouldn't have existed.
Right. I think you said this earlier, but correct me if I'm wrong. This was planned for Walt Disney World.
Correct.
And then when they couldn't afford it because of things like Pirates of the Caribbean, Space Mountain, etc., they scaled it back to just the one mine train, which actually ended up opening up in Disneyland first. But the reason for that Disneyland attraction is this idea for Walt Disney World. So.
Exactly. So that's a little strange and bizarre, but factual. So it's interesting.
Satisfactual.
Exactly. So that's the Walt Disney World version. Anything you want to add about that? You've ridden that one far more times than I have.
I'm just going to say what I said at the beginning. I love how detailed this ride is, and I'm such a nerd, but for some reason, this is what I feel like I have to tell people when they ride it, because don't
tell me to look at the, what is it? Look at the, not coyote. What is it? Look at the goat.
The goat. No. You can look at the goat. And I actually am going to say look at the goat, but not because it gives you a weird sensation, because it's amazing how many scenes and vignettes, is that the word?
Yeah.
Are in this attraction that you breeze right by. Like, Disney did not have to add the horse pulling the little trailer behind him with all the goods on it. They did not have to add all these waterfall features. And I love the feature in the queue. I don't know what it's called, but it's like a gutter basically of the water pouring down. There is not a single second on this attraction where around you is just mountain. Like, there's always something there. And why did they do that? Because you breeze right by it.
So I'm going to start a very controversial conversation right here, but that is why 1980s Imagineering is greater than current day Imagineering. Because just think about what you just said, the detail of these things that you're breezing by. And then let's think of the Incredicoaster, where there are things that you're not even breezing by. You're climbing a hill slowly. And what do we get today? We get a static figure. We get a statue to look at that's supposed to be an animated character. Yet scenes that we're breezing by in Big Thunder Mountain Railroad are still moving or have great levels of detail. And it's infuriating to me today. And that's why I'll always look back at what once was with great admiration.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. That's a good point. I just encourage people, the next time you ride Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, try to find one thing that you have never noticed before in all of your times riding it, and I bet you'll find something.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. It's
it's the wildest ride in the wilderness.
It's the wildest ride in the wilderness. I have not ridden it in Walt Disney World for a very long time, to be honest. Probably since I was a kid. It's once again, it's one of those attractions I think I really enjoy looking at, but it's never a priority on the list. And it's not because I don't like it. It's just I don't know. I don't know what it is. It's just it's always got a decent wait, and I guess I'm just always unwilling to wait.
Can I tell you something I love about it that you try to notice the next time you ride it? It feels like I don't know how to say this. It feels like a community experience when you ride Big Thunder because everyone is laughing. And then every time you go around quick curves, everyone laughs louder and, screams. And like everyone is having fun. And then when it's over, sometimes people clap. It's just that kind of like, it puts joy in you.
Those quick curves, those like really sharp turns, those legitimately scare me.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, those are like, oh no, what might happen? And the other thing I would say, a warning with this attraction, there's definitely one side that is safer to sit on. Like, figure out which side the lighter person and the heavier person should be sitting on before you hop on this attraction, or else that little person will be crushed. So
yes. My favorite is when they say, 3 adults, okay, this row right here.
3 adults in one row?
Oh, it's happened multiple times for me, and it is not comfortable.
Oh, yeah, that does not sound comfortable. It's because you're so little that they're like, we can fit 2 people with him.
I ain't that little.
Anyway, let's move on to Tokyo Disneyland, where on July 4th, 1987, Big Thunder Mountain opened for them. So there's a difference. Originally, both Disneyland and Walt Disney World, it was Big Thunder Mountain Railroad. That is the full name of the attraction. Curious, what do you call it?
I call it all sorts of things. If I'm on a podcast such as yours, I always refer to it by its full name, Big Thunder.
That's not true.
Railroad.
You've already called it Big Thunder once.
Oh, then I'm so sorry. I was going to say
no, it's okay. Because I feel like I'm a Thunder Mountain guy, I think. I think if it's just to roll off my tongue, I'll be like, let's go do Thunder Mountain.
Yeah, I think I usually say Big Railroad. I'm just kidding.
I was going to say, what? Really?
No, I think I say Big Thunder.
Okay, so it's interesting. There's the nickname of Big Thunder. There's the nickname of Thunder Mountain. The full name at Disneyland and Walt Disney World are Big Thunder Mountain Railroad. But when it goes to Tokyo Disneyland, it is shortened to Big Thunder Mountain. It is placed in a land like Frontierland, but it's called Western Land over there. As I mentioned, that was July 4th, 1987. And this one is pretty darn similar to the Magic Kingdom version. So there's not too much to touch upon here. Neither of us have personally experienced that one, as far as I know. And anything to add?
No, I have not ridden that. I did watch a YouTube video, and I felt like I was at Magic Kingdom. For sure.
Okay, there we go. Perfect.
One thing I read, though, back to the Disneyland version, I didn't realize that Disneyland is the only version where the loading area is outside.
Yeah, I saw that too, and I was like, that makes... that's just in general, right? Like queues are outside at Disneyland.
Mad Tea Party.
Yeah, like there's a lot of stuff that's outside that is indoors in the other parks. And I think it just has to do with, the original planning of the park and just the amount of space they have is my guess. But yeah, that's it's always funny when you're used to an attraction, even something like Star Tours, where you're so inside of a building that you really can't tell where you are unless, you know where you are, except for like there'll be small little details. Like when I exit Star Tours here at Disneyland, when you exit the spaceship, you take a left to exit. And at Walt Disney World, you take a right to exit. So whenever I do it at Walt Disney World, it always like weirds me out for a second. I'm like, oh, all right, cool.
That's funny, yeah.
It's the small little things. In any case, over at Disneyland Paris, this one opened on April 12th, 1992. This is the only Big Thunder Mountain, and once again, just Big Thunder Mountain, not Big Thunder Mountain Railroad in Paris as well, but this is the only one that opened along with the park. So April 12th, 1992 was the opening date of Euro Disney, now Disneyland Paris, and they do have an area called Frontierland, so it's there as well. And I just, once again, I find that interesting because I still can't imagine Magic Kingdom without a Big Thunder Mountain Railroad. So it's funny that this is the only one with the opening day. And this is super unique because you board it on the mainland in the park, and then like the train goes underwater and takes you over to an island, which is crazy. I did an episode interviewing Imagineer Terry Harden, and she worked on this version of the attraction, and she goes into detail. God, that was an older episode. Search for it if you want, or message me. I'll let you know what episode number it is. But yeah, it's crazy to think like it has its own island. That's crazy and just beautiful from a visual standpoint, and a lot of great detail on this version of the attraction.
Yeah, our friend Matt, who used to host with us, he went to Paris 2 or 3 years ago, and I remember he came back and he had 2 or 3 attractions that like he really raved about, especially because we have the same thing, but they're just not as good here. And Big Thunder was definitely one of those.
There's a lot of those in Paris. Paris's park is arguably one of the most beautiful Magic Kingdom parks that exist. They have my favorite castle. Their Haunted Mansion is mind-blowing, called Phantom Manor, which we're going to talk about in a second. Their Pirates of the Caribbean is phenomenal. Like, that park is gorgeous. And the thought that it was such a flop when it first opened is heartbreaking, because I'm sure everybody working on them were just like, we took these amazing attractions and plussed the heck out of them. And it's so wonderful. But in any case, the story of this one has a bit of a different backstory. It concerns the town of Thunder Mesa that was founded by Henry Ravenswood to support the mining in the mountain. Now, this backstory influences not just Big Thunder Mountain, but also Frontierland's other attraction, Phantom Manor. So, Phantom Manor and Big Thunder Mountain at Disneyland Paris have connected storylines, which I think is super cool.
I love that. Yeah, it's like the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but with attractions.
Yeah, sure. Which is much cooler. Let's just put that out there.
You're right. No, you're right. Yeah.
Now, to better fit with the adjacent Fantasyland areas of the theme park, the original Walt Disney World design had to be replaced with something more appropriate for Disneyland. Now, as we mentioned, it was originally designed for Walt Disney World, even though Disneyland's opened first. But the Florida, Tokyo, and Paris versions of the ride use sharp-edged mountains and the vibrant colors of Monument Valley, Arizona, while Disneyland's version was developed with more rounded features and muted colors resembling the Bryce Canyon Hoodoos in Utah. I don't know what that is. But that's interesting to me, that just the design, because it's so close to Fantasyland at Disneyland, it has a whole different look than the other three. Detail, detail, detail.
Wow. I knew they were designed after different parts of the country. I didn't know that there was a reason for that.
Yeah, and now you can see small pieces of Big Thunder Mountain Railroad from the planet of Batuu at Black Spire Outpost, Galaxy's Edge.
Yeah, but I think it's seamless.
I wouldn't say it's seamless. It's acceptable, is what I would say, because all of like the sharp rocks and such in Black Spire Outpost are a very dark gray black color. And Big Thunder Mountain Railroad is still, it's got its orange rust color hues to it. So it's definitely like something, I guess it's like far in the distance. So maybe that's, we can accept in that sense. It's acceptable, but I'm definitely like, oh, look, Big Thunder Mountain Railroad.
Oh, no. Well, it's better than seeing Slinky Dog Dash from
Can you see Slinky Dog Dash?
Yes, you can.
Shut
I mean,
up.
you have to look closely, but I saw someone on Twitter post a picture, like they were just standing inside Galaxy's Edge, and they took a picture of some of the nice buildings, and it's one of those progressive tweets where each picture was zoomed in more and more, and sure enough, the fourth picture, you just see Slinky coming over a hill.
Somebody tweeted, and I think this is funny. In fact, I think this joke has been made a lot of times, but like, oh, what if it's just an extension of Toy Story Land, and this is where Andy plays with his Star Wars toys? And I'm like, sure, we can go that way.
I accept that.
Sure. Yeah. Now, the thing, obviously, the Big Thunder Mountain, you can see from Galaxy's Edge. The one at Disneyland that is the like unacceptable one that I personally have not seen, but some people say they can see the top of the Mickey and the Magical Map tent.
Oh, interesting.
And if that's true, that's really a problem. But yeah, in any case, it exists. It happens. What are you going to do? It's still fully immersive, right?
I agree.
So in January of 2013, I find this interesting. ABC, the television station, ordered a pilot based on the ride titled Big Thunder Mountain, but the idea was scrapped sometime after. Now, for an attraction that, like we said, has some crazy backstory that most people don't know, I feel like a TV show or a miniseries or even just a TV movie about this would be great. And not that I'm contradicting myself, because I love the fact that this attraction doesn't have any sort of IP attached to it. It just is what it is. But I think it could be interesting to, learn more about those stories. And Disney Plus kind of seems like a good place to do something like that. Just saying.
I didn't know which one of us was going to say it, but I agree.
Yeah, so, but I do remember hearing the rumors about the series. Do you remember that?
I do, and I felt like they killed it off before it even really got traction.
Yeah.
But yeah, a little show called Rainbow Ridge, and it's the town of this mountain and the miners who are trying to, I don't know, uproot it of all its gold.
We could do it. Let's do it. Let's contact Disney Plus. We're doing it. And then in October of 2014, Marvel Comics, they announced a 5-issue series based on the attraction, which eventually debuted in early 2015. And part of Marvel's Disney Kingdoms line, the series elaborated on the story behind the attraction and featured input from Walt Disney Imagineering, including numerous nods to the elements of the attraction. So, the story has lived on in a different form in some sense, and I feel like people are learning more and more about it through podcasts or blogs or whatever. But it's a fascinating history of this attraction. It's 40 years now, which is a long time, but not a long time all at the same time. But it's one of those attractions that I like to go back to and just once again say, listen, you can build an original attraction, you can make an exciting attraction out of a non-IP, and it can last for decades and become a classic. So that's my overall thought on Big Thunder Mountain Railroad.
I agree. And for so many kids, this is the first roller coaster they got to ride.
Totally. I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, set aside like Barnstormer, because a lot of kids will ride Barnstormer or the Gadgets Go coaster, that sort of roller coaster.
Sure, but those came 20 years after. So for a good chunk of time,
True.
like Big Thunder Mountain really probably was a lot of kids' first roller coasters, and it is one of those ones that you can sit next to dad or mom, and they can be holding your hand, and it like you said, everybody's laughing. I'm going to see this now that I'm saying this, but I don't think I've ever seen a kid come off of Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, no matter what the age, crying. I don't think I've ever seen that.
My 2 nephews went about a year and a half ago to Walt Disney World for the very first time. And I think one at the time was 4 and one was 6 or 7. And they loved Big Thunder so much because it was their first real roller coaster that they rode it, I think, 4 times in a row as the park was closing. And when they got back home, all they wanted to talk about was Big Thunder Mountain Railroad. And I know they're not the only ones of that age.
That's fantastic.
That way.
I love that. That's great. Anything else you want to add before we get to some trivia?
I just love this ride. We didn't talk about it, but I actually love, it's such a small thing. I love that in front of the front car is a train. It serves no purpose, but it adds to that ride vehicle that there's a physical train.
It's to show that there's nobody driving. That's what I do remember it was during Legends of Frontierland, which was a one summer thing happening in Frontierland. Do you remember hearing about this at all? This was at Disneyland.
No.
Oh, it was great. It was really like a role-playing game all throughout. It was great. I had a blast with Legends of Frontierland, and there was a clue I remember that was something like, we hear there's a train running through town with no driver. Go snap a picture of it and bring it back to whomever. And so it was just one of those things that you don't really think about, and then when they give you that little task to do, you're like, oh yeah, of course, Big Thunder Mountain Railroad. There's nobody driving that thing.
Yeah. So. Okay, and it has to be said, you said it's better at night. I also want to point out the obvious that it's so much better in the back as well.
Yes, yeah, especially. Okay, let's just talk about the flaw, and I think this is in all the versions. But the last hill, when you're climbing up at Disneyland, the explosion cave, and the other one's like the earthquake cave. There's that. You think there's going to be this big drop after that, and this very nothing. But if you're in the back, you get a little bit of something. If you're in the front, You're just like, what happened here? And I don't know.
In the front, you're constantly waiting for the back to catch up.
Yeah.
And so you're like, all right, are you guys almost over the hill already so we can start moving now?
Yeah.
But in the back,
I don't know what that design choice was about. At Disneyland, they obviously it's right in the, in a good center of the park. So they might have just had limited space, or I don't know if it has to slow down the train at some point for that reason. I don't know what the reason is behind that. But it is always one of those things that if it's your first time riding, you're expecting something and get the total opposite, and it's a little bit disappointing.
Yeah, a little anticlimactic for sure.
Yeah, and you said something. You said that I said it's better to ride at night. Now, I actually don't necessarily agree with that statement. It's great to ride during the fireworks, but I think daytime, because of the level of detail that you had previously mentioned, I think daytime probably is the better time to ride it overall. But if you can catch that 10-minute window of fireworks, you're in for a real special treat.
Right, that is what you said. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to put words in your mouth.
But also, the lighting of it at night is beautiful. Here's the deal. Ride Big Thunder Mountain at least twice, maybe 3 times if you can. Daytime, nighttime, and then fireworks. Boom.
You should do a poll. Do you prefer it in the daytime or nighttime? Because I actually do prefer it in the nighttime, but I would be interested to see.
That will be this week's Twitter poll. So you
go.
can hear the results of that on this Sunday's episode of Disney Coast to Coast, and we'll reveal what you guys think there. So there you go. You just gave me this week's Twitter poll. I love it. So in any case, we're going to get some trivia in a second. I just want to say thank you to Tony Baxter and the Imagineers and everybody that worked on Big Thunder Mountain Railroad. You have created quite a classic attraction that has survived 40 years, and it's fantastic. So in any case, I think that means it's trivia time! All right, Derek, do you want to hit me with the trivia question first, or shall I hit you?
Hit me with it.
Okay. So we've been talking about Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, and of course, Disney has a lot of mountain attractions. Can you tell me when did the first Disney mountain attraction open, and I guess what it is as well?
Okay, the first one had to be the Matterhorn.
That is correct. The Matterhorn bobsleds at Disneyland Park.
1959.
There you go. Very good. There's, want to guess a month?
Ooh, June?
Yes. You want to pick a number?
12.
Add 2?
14.
June 14th, 1959, Matterhorn bobsleds at Disneyland Park. Of course, that means Walt was involved with the first Disney mountain, which is pretty cool. And it still exists today. As we said, it's pretty painful. I really...
Oh, it's brutal.
Yeah, even when they've fix it and make it better, it's still painful. I don't love it. It's more about a visual thing in Disneyland Park than a ride for me.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't want it to go away, but I don't need to ride it every time.
Yeah, June 14th, 1959. Very good. You had 1959 right at the tip of your tongue. You knew that one.
I knew 1959 because that's also the same year as the monorail and something else.
Submarines.
Skyway?
Submarines.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, very, very cool. So what's your trivia question for me?
Oh, I thought we were going to go through all the mountains. I didn't know that was...
Oh, no, I just want to know the first one.
Yeah. Okay,
But
there you go. Because I believe the next one would have been Magic Kingdom's Space Mountain in 75.
You know your mountains, sir. Yeah. Yeah, Space Mountain, Walt Disney World, January 15th, 1975. Now, very much like Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, how that opened at Disneyland first, but a lot of people might think it was Walt Disney World first. For me, it's always shocking that Walt Disney World got Space Mountain before Disneyland.
Right.
I would expect that Disneyland would have gotten that first, but...
Yeah, it is strange. I don't know. And then Walt Disney World got basically the Matterhorn style of ride.
Oh, yes. Yeah, which, after you've ridden them, it makes more sense as far as which one came first and such. But you know what I love? And I'm just thinking about the mountains now. Expedition Everest is kind of a mix of the Matterhorn visually, but Big Thunder Mountain Railroad because of the train.
Yeah, you're right.
Oh, and the Matterhorn because of a Yeti.
Oh my gosh. It's like this compilation of the greatest hits.
Except Disneyland's Matterhorn, the Yeti works.
Whoa, shade.
Oh, super shade. Anyway, what is your trivia question for me?
Reality and truth. Okay, so my question is about the trains themselves. You might know some of the names of the trains.
Nope, not a single one.
All right, well, there are 6 different ones, and all of them start with either UR, IM, IB, or UB, as in you are blank.
Yeah.
So all of the names after that are adjectives. Can you guess what any of them are?
Oh, I was going to be like, I am Baxter, but I guess that's not one of them. Oh, no, God. No. You be fast? I don't
That's a great guess. One of them should be You Be Wild.
Yeah, give me one of them. How many other? Okay. There's 6, you said?
6.
Okay.
One of them is Bold.
You Be Bold?
You Are Bold.
You Are Bold. Oh, gosh. Give me the things again. I am, you said?
Yeah, there's another You Are. There are 2 more You Ares.
Okay, so You Are Bold. You Are Brave?
Ooh, great guess.
You are...
Lots of synonyms for brave.
You are... courageous? I don't know.
Yes, you are courageous.
Are you kidding me? That's a terrible name for a train.
It's not great, but it's there.
It's not great. You are courageous. You are...
Starts with a D.
Oh, you are dastardly. You are...
No.
You are...
Kind of sounds like my name.
You are deadly?
You are daring.
You are daring. Okay, I'm not gonna get these. What are the rest?
Yeah, no, you got courageous though. Okay, so the last three are I am loco, which is kind of funny because it's a locomotive.
Okay.
But also loco means crazy.
Thank you for explaining that. Thank you.
Yeah, so see, there's another language called Spanish.
Oh. There's a Mexican restaurant right next to Big Thunder Mountain Railroad in Disneyland. Are you talking about, by the way, are you talking about Walt Disney World's?
This is actually Disneyland specifically, but
Okay.
I know the ones in Magic Kingdom also have names. I just don't know if they're the same.
Okay, so we're talking Disneyland right now. Okay, yeah, it's right next to the Rancho del Zocalo, which I absolutely love.
Me too. And the final are...
I'm gonna tangent. Rancho del Zocalo has a special secret menu item that I don't suggest, but you might want to try once, because they have the Zocalo nachos, which is basically if you're not familiar with Rancho del Zocalo, one of the areas has like tacos and burritos, and there's, the chicken burrito or the beef burrito, and they put some stuff in. Well, if you get the Zocalo nachos, it's basically nachos with like everything there on top. Ask them for the Zocalo burrito, and you will get a massive, and I mean massive burrito filled with everything they have in that serving station. Chicken, meat, pork, everything, all the beans, all the rice, everything, and a massive burrito that I can't even think what I would compare to. It's huge. It's like a giant thing of salami or something. And it is one of the most filling. I felt gross the rest of the day. And somebody had been telling me, you got to try it. So I'm like, all right, I'll try it. I mean, normally I get a burrito there, but, for the price, you're getting a ton of food. And it's massive. So go to Rancho del Zocalo, ask for the secret menu item, Zocalo burrito.
And then have regrets for the rest of your day.
And then don't ride Big Thunder Mountain after that, because you will vomit. But I'm sorry, I interrupted your trivia.
That's okay.
We're keeping the suspense alive.
The final two are I be hardy and I am fearless.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm bad at noticing this. I know, like the Jungle Cruise, they all have names as well. I'm really bad at noticing vehicle names.
Yeah, and the Jungle Cruise, I think there are like 15, 16 different ones. It's crazy.
And they changed for Christmas over at Walt Disney World, so it's nuts.
That's right. It's cute.
And hey, it's Derek. Thank you so much for coming on the show to celebrate the 40th anniversary of Big Thunder Mountain Railroad. Why don't you let the folks know? Actually, we are tag teaming this week for each other's shows, because you are on my show, obviously, and then I am on your show, The Mad Chatters. So let folks know all about that show.
Yeah, I was just about to say that we are the Mad Chatters. My co-host Jeremy and I release an episode every 2 weeks about Walt Disney World and the Disney Company, and we play silly games and have great conversations and all sorts of things. And our guest this week will be none other than the terrific, stupendous Jeff DePauli. So go check us out over on the Mad Chatters and all of the social media sites that are attached to it.
Fantastic. And all of our social media can be found over at DisneyCoastToCoast.com. And folks, don't forget, through the rest of this month, you can enter daily to win a trip to Walt Disney World. This is not a joke. Head to DisneyCoastToCoast.com, click on contest there. You'll get your hotel taken care of, your theme park tickets, and your food. So head to DisneyCoastToCoast.com daily, click on contest. Of course, if you're sick of just listening to podcasts and want to start one of your very own, head to youcanpodcastnow.net for some free information. And other than that, folks, have a magical day. Bye!
Thanks for listening to Disney Coast to Coast. Have a magical day.
Disney Coast to Coast is produced and hosted by Jeff DePauli. Learn more about the podcast and become a supporter at DisneyCoastToCoast.com.